Good morning, everyone. This is Lynn Sugiyama speaking on behalf of the Arizona Buddhist Temple here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'd like to begin my Dharma talk with a reading. This is from the Buddhist text on the path of awakening. May I, through whatever good I have accomplished, become one who works for the complete alleviation of the suffering of all beings. May I be medicine for the sick. May I also be their physician and attend to them until their disease no longer reoccurs. With showers of food and water, may I eliminate the pain and hunger and thirst, and during periods of great famine, may I be food and drink. May I be an inexhaustible storehouse for the poor, and may I always be first in being ready to serve them in various ways. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Again, good morning to all of you. I want to thank you for your support of the Arizona Buddhist Temple and for watching us on this video channel. Last week was Mother's Day, and so I hope all the mothers and grandmothers and aunts, you all had a very nice Mother's Day. And so last week, I cooked a nice salmon dinner for my wife and my daughter. And afterwards, we had dessert. I bought cream puffs from Beard Papa in Scottsdale. So we all enjoyed a nice dinner and a nice time together last week. I want to ask a question. Have you ever heard of this doctor, Dr. Tetsu Nakamura? Well, several years ago, I was watching a documentary on the English channel of the Japanese broadcasting system NHK television. And so on this particular documentary, it was talking about Dr. Tetsu Nakamura and that he was helping the people in Afghanistan. So as you know, Afghanistan has been in the news recently. There's been a lot of fighting there and many people getting hurt and killed. So we hope that the situation there and other violence around the world ends quickly. So originally, Dr. Nakamura, who was a medical doctor in Japan, and he wanted to help the sick people in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. And so he flew to Pakistan with a few other doctors, and there they helped many people who were sick. And then he also traveled to Afghanistan to aid the people there. So Dr. Nakamura, he originally wanted to be in that area for only 5 or 6 years. But because he enjoyed working with the people from Pakistan and Afghanistan, he ended up working there for almost 30 years. So as a person concerned about the health of people, Dr. Nakamura, he helped build 2 hospitals in Afghanistan. And because he respected the deep Muslim faith of the people there, he also built 2 mosques in the area that he worked in. And so around 2006, Dr. Nakamura, he saw the hardship of the farmers in this region called Jalalabad in Afghanistan. And he found that many of the farmers were very poor and they couldn't grow the crops that they wanted, even though they lived near a big river. And so many people were ill because they didn't have enough to eat. So Dr. Nakamura, he came up with an idea to build a irrigation canal by diverting water from this river. But the problem is that he didn't have any modern equipment, things like a bulldozer to move the rock and earth needed to build this canal. And so they had to do things manually. Dr. Nakamura, he organized a group of people to build the canal, moving the rocks and moving earth with their hands and with shovels. And he attempted to use these rocks and put them into the river to divert the water to the canal. But when he first did this, the first attempt, the water from the river was too strong and it washed away the rocks, and so they could not divert the water to the canal. So after this failed attempt, Dr. Nakamura, he had to go back to Japan. And while he was there, he was reading this old Japanese textbook on engineering techniques that were used at that time. And so he found this engineering technique that used rocks to put into the river and diverting that water into an irrigation canal in Japan. So this gave Dr. Nakamura the idea to use this technique in Afghanistan. And so after a while, Dr. Nakamura was able to go back to Afghanistan and go back to that region of Jalalabad. And there he incorporated that engineering technique, and he used many people to get tons of rock to put into this river. And they used that technique in order to divert that water to the irrigation canal. So once they did this time it worked, and they were able to divert the water without having any issues with the rock system they used to divert the water. And the farms that were in that area that were benefited by the canal, they became very successful in growing the crops and growing the food needed to help the people in that region. And so many farmers were very happy with the work that Dr. Nakamura gave to them. They were so happy with this new irrigation canal. So they were so thankful for all the work that Dr. Nakamura did for them. So Dr. Nakamura, he stated in the document that a doctor only treats patients one by one. But by building this irrigation canal, he can help an entire village. One irrigation canal can do more good than 100 doctors. So then in the documentary, Dr. Nakamura was asked about the violence in Afghanistan. And Dr. Nakamura said, "Weapons and tanks don't solve problems. The revival of farming is the cornerstone to Afghanistan's recovery." And so because of this success that Dr. Nakamura had, he became a target of a terrorist group. But that did not concern Dr. Nakamura too much. He continued to help the poor and sick, and he helped to build other irrigation canals in Afghanistan. But unfortunately, in December of 2019, Dr. Nakamura and 5 other Afghans were ambushed in their car and they were killed by a terrorist group. And so his death it shocked many people in Afghanistan and in Japan. And many people mourned his death. And so I was very sad to hear about his death in the news because I remember his story from the NHK documentary. And so, to be honest, sometimes I just don't understand all the violence that happens in this world. When I think about Dr. Tetsu Nakamura, I think that he was helping so many people. So I don't understand why someone would want to harm him with all the good that he provided to people. But I also think about all that he accomplished, and I was so impressed by the good deeds that he did for people. He used his great knowledge and strength and compassion to help people who are ill, to help the farmers with their irrigation canal. So I think that Dr. Nakamura's good deeds are just like a bodhisattva in Buddhism. So, what is a bodhisattva? A bodhisattva is described as a celestial being who's heading towards the path of Buddhahood. So, he's right at the edge of becoming an enlightened being. But before he becomes a Buddha, the bodhisattva continues to help people become enlightened first. So, this is an act of being completely selfless and to think of others before he helps himself. So once all other people become enlightened, then the Bodhisattva finally reaches Buddhahood himself. So in the sutras that we chant, we learn about the Amida Buddha. And so he did the same thing when he was a Bodhisattva. He made the promise to create the Pure Land, and that included everyone, whether they were rich or poor, whether they were young or old, whether they were good or bad. All people who entrust themselves to the Amida Buddha and saying Namo Amida Butsu, I take refuge in the Amida Buddha, they were assured of their birth in the Pure Land. It said that once we are assured of our birth in the Pure Land, we will reach enlightenment. So this promise, this vow that the Bodhisattva made, he becomes the Amida Buddha. So Amida Buddha, we say, has great compassion, great wisdom for all people. And he helps people thoroughly, better than we as ordinary people. So this attracts so many people to Shin Buddhism, to this Pure Land Buddhism tradition. So I think that Dr. Nakamura, he built this irrigation canal to help the many farmers and to feed many people with the vegetables, with the food provided from this production. And so Dr. Nakamura, he was very selfless in helping people before his own needs. So just like the Buddhist passage that I spoke at the beginning of my talk, before may I alleviate the poor from suffering. May I be a doctor for those who are sick and to help people in need. This is the same thinking as a bodhisattva. So I think this is what all the good deeds that Dr. Nakamura provided for the people in Jalalabad, Afghanistan. So I think that all of us, we all have the capability to be like Dr. Nakamura. We all have the capability to help people in need. So I think all of us try to do that in the things we do in life. We all try to help people in need. We try to give our love to those who need it the most, like our family and friends. So just a little bit of help, just a little bit of love goes a long way, especially to those who are sick. So I think it's difficult to help all people as thoroughly as we want to, but we know that Amida Buddha is there for all of us, and that through his wisdom and compassion, he helps everyone who is in need of help and who is in need of this benefit that Amida provides for all of us to enter the Pure Land when we pass away. So I thank you for listening. I hope that all of us continue to help others in need and to help the sick and the poor. So I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank all of you for your support. Closing, to again read this passage on the path of awakening. May I, through whatever good I have accomplished, become one who works for the complete alleviation of the suffering for all beings. May I be the medicine for the sick, and may I also be their physician and attend to them until their disease no longer occurs. With showers of food and water, may I eliminate the pain and hunger and thirst, and during periods of great famine, may I be food and drink. May I be inexhaustible of a storehouse for the poor, and may I always be the first, being ready to serve them in various ways. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you again for listening. Please have a good day and please be safe. Thank you very much.